In this video, I want to talk about how to approach selling AI and also approach using AI for your own business. So if you're an AI agency owner, this will be relevant to you. And if you're also just a business trying to use AI and trying to figure out if you actually even need it, this is also going to apply to you. So I'm going to be completely raw, honest, and authentic in this video with my experience selling AI systems and some huge mistakes I made and the experience I gained going through these mistakes. And now I know how to actually approach this. So the number one thing is going to be thinking about when you're looking for clients or your own business, is your business even ready for AI? So do you need AI? Now, there's a huge education component to implementing any type of AI tool within a business. And a lot of companies won't have that education yet. So they have no idea what AI is. They think it's just kind of some magic box where you can throw problems at it and it just can solve anything. If they don't have leads or if they have low traffic, it can just generate them leads by raining them down from clouds. And they kind of try to think of it as a one size fits all solution for any problem in their business. If you've actually worked with any LLMs, AI tools, automation platforms, you know that's not the case. And a lot of businesses simply aren't ready to start using AI. So this is partly one problem I experienced a lot when I used to run a lot of paid traffic, paid ads. And I hopped on maybe over a couple hundred sales calls with small to medium sized businesses. And I learned really quickly that the education level is still so early in terms of people understanding how AI will help them. So you have to realize you're going to have to talk to your clients to educate them if they have no idea. Ideally, you're going to be working with clients that are a little larger and already know what they want in the general sense, so that way you can kind of just come in as an expert, consult them, provide them the final touches, and then actually deliver the project for them, right? So if you're having to completely educate your client from start to finish, they might not be a good fit as a client. So I want to talk about what does a client, or if you're trying to implement AI in your own company, what do you actually need to have set up? So there's four pillars that I consider as essentials. There's probably a few more, but these you can kind of group them in as the main four pillars. So number one is software. So is your client actually using relevant software, right? So if you're trying to work, like a lot of people, especially on social media, LinkedIn, YouTube, they sell the idea of selling AI or selling automations to local businesses, and they say anyone can benefit from these, and you can make so much money from selling local businesses AI automations, right? Whether that's N8N, Make.com, Zapier automations, whatever. The issue is a lot of these companies have almost no software usage in terms of commercial softwares like enterprise software, and they're not using tools that have good APIs. So if they're not actually using these softwares, there's nothing for you to automate, right? So you can't integrate these apps and platforms. And that kind of leads me to the next point, which is process, right? But the thing about the software is you can actually charge additional services to set up these tech stacks for these companies. But you have to realize that has nothing to do with automation or AI yet, right? So you're gonna have to spend time setting up someone's CRM, someone's sales platforms, whatever, right? So you have to account for that. And reality is a lot of these people might not want to pay you for something like that because they thought they were signing up for a sales call to buy AI, right? So when you tell a client you have to actually set up five more softwares before you can even think about using AI, they might get second thoughts and they might doubt their approach and they might just give up like completely, right? And then that leads me to my second point, process. So does a client even have a documented process? Now, it doesn't have to be on paper, but do they have processes that they follow day to day in their business, right? A lot of companies, especially smaller to medium sized businesses, might have kind of free floating workflows that they have, but it changes way too much. It's dynamic. Not every employee follows it, and it just needs too many human touches where it gets to a point where you can't automate this, right? And if you can automate it, it'll take you so much time to go through discovery to find out the exact custom automation you'll need that it won't be worth it for you unless you're charging ridiculous amounts of money. And that also creates a second problem where you end up creating a solution that's not repeatable. So you can't kind of productize it and sell it to another business. Now, you can charge discovery here. So if a business doesn't have these processes documented, you can charge a client consulting fees to help them identify their processes, or if they don't have any, to make them for them. But again, you have to realize you're not even at the point of talking about AI yet. Nothing here is AI yet. And again, someone might not be happy with that. They might check out early, and it also might not be worth it for you if you're trying to run an AI business. Number three here is going to be need. So do they even have a need to automate or bring AI into that department in their business? So some companies, for example, will ask me on a sales call, I want a chatbot for my website. I want to generate leads on my website. First thing I ask is how much traffic do you actually get, right? If they get 10, 20, 30 views a month on their website, a chatbot is not going to do anything. So you need to have good reason to actually use AI or any type of automation in a business. Now, if they also have maybe some type of client intake workflows, but they only run it twice a week and it takes about a couple minutes each time, there's really no need to automate that if it's not something that's going to scale and cause a lot of problems in the future. So if there's no big problem, they don't have a need for that automation. Traffic is another huge one, kind of like what I was saying with the lead generation chatbot on the website. Do they actually have traffic to mandate setting up some type of automation? So a lot of clients think you can kind of just generate leads out of thin air, but unless you have traffic, any type of email automation or sequence nurturing follow-ups, none of that will help unless there's a source of customers that you can go for, right? So if they don't have leads, if they don't have traffic, none of this will matter, and anything you build for them will be essentially useless. So that kind of brings me to discovery. So how much discovery are you actually going to be doing for these clients? Because a lot of people make it seem like you can build a make automation, an a then automation super easily. You can create 5 nodes, set up an automation, sell it to a business for $1,000, $5,000, whatever. But the reality is you're probably going to spend a lot more time on discovery than you expect because a lot of these companies just don't have well ironed out processes. They have random softwares they're using, if they're using any, and you might spend so much time just on discovery, and none of these companies are almost none of them are going to want to pay you for that discovery, right? Because their deal is, why would I pay you if I don't even know if you can help me yet, right? Now, obviously, that type of problem does get paid out when you're working with larger customers, enterprise customers, because that's an expected part of the customer journey. But a lot of these local service businesses or smaller to medium sized businesses, they're not going to want to pay you for discovery. This is why a lot of companies do free estimates, right? You always hear that and you see that on all these websites, free quotes, free estimates, because everyone knows if you charge for an estimate, charge for a quote to a general consumer, they're going to avoid it. They're going to go for someone that offers a free one. And that's fine when it's a very simple estimate, something that you can kind of iron out right away. But if you have to spend hours and days and weeks trying to figure out how you can help your client, it's not worth it for anyone in that process. And that also brings the next point into topic, which is a budget. So they're likely going to have lower budgets, right? A lot of these companies are not going to be spending that much money on softwares, on subscriptions. So a lot of companies, if they're not spending any money on software, why would you think that they're going to spend a lot of money for an AI agency to build them an AI agent, right? It's unlikely. So not only will you have to spend more time on discovery, they're also going to have lower budgets. They're going to want to pay you less. And it's ironic because you're going to have to do more work for less money. And the other thing is a lot of these companies just don't need AI, right? And this actually can kind of scale to even larger companies, 7-figure, 8-figure companies, whatever. The reality is I kind of threw a random percentage on the screen, 98%, but I would honestly say 90+% of companies will benefit mostly just from integrations and automation. So any type of N8N, Make.com automation will deliver 98% of the results versus actually having to use custom AI agents within a business. Now, you can use AI to glue a lot of these parts together for the automations, but again, the simplest thing is going to be connecting APIs together, and that's going to deliver most of the results. So don't focus on selling AI exactly. Try to focus on selling the result, and whether AI helps you get there or not. If an automation that's simple is more than enough, then go for that, right? It doesn't have to be super complex custom AI. And you also want to think about scale, productizing, and leverage. So can you scale this offer? Now, you don't always have to think about this nonstop because if someone's willing to pay you good money for a project, you should take it. But if it's something that you can't scale, it might be a waste of time. If it's something that you can't productize, again, it might be a waste of time. And you'll end up with having zero leverage. So the theme of everything here is a lot of these projects are going to be super custom. They're going to need tons of discovery. And the key here is they're not going to be repeatable, meaning you can't scale it, you can't productize these offers, and that leads to you having low leverage within your business. And if you have low leverage, you're not going to make as much money as possible. So if you're selling an AI agent that's always the same, you can kind of create a template out of it. That is something you can productize. Always you'll have to do some small types of customization, and that's fine. But if it's a completely custom system every single time, you better be charging ridiculous amounts of money for it, or it's just not worth your time or investment into that client. So that's something you really have to think about before starting a project. Am I getting paid enough? Because I know I'm not going to be able to kind of repeat this process for any other clients, right? So is this worth what I'm getting paid? And it's kind of ironic, and a lot of people don't realize this, but more complex and more work does not always equal more money. If anything, it might be the opposite. Now, there are going to be some clients that will really value really custom expert integration work where it's very custom, and they will pay you a huge premium for that. But if you're dealing with more local, smaller to medium-sized businesses, they're not going to value it the same way a large enterprise does, and you're going to waste a ton of time. So I would recommend just skipping the sludge. Like, you don't have to go through this. You don't have to do the same mistakes I made. So I've taken hundreds of sales calls, and I've noticed a huge trend where smaller to medium-sized businesses are just not ready to use AI in their business. Now, they can benefit quite a bit from automations, but a lot of them are not there yet. And if they are there in terms of need, traffic, process, and software, they don't have that much money to invest. So don't waste your time dealing with these type of clients where they don't see the value in your offer, right? Now, it might not be that you're not like, sure, you might not be explaining or displaying the value good enough. That's reasonable too. But a lot of them just aren't aware of how AI works and how it'll benefit a business, meaning you're not going to be able to sell them on a large amount of money for your project. So I would really recommend just kind of skipping this phase. If you're starting an AI agency, you can go past this. You don't have to waste time doing this. You can go straight to $10,000 plus productizable AI agents. You don't have to be doing these super custom automations where you're only getting paid $500, $1,000 per automation, right? Now, again, it just depends where you are in your journey, but you can skip this step. You don't need to do it. It's not a prerequisite. You can kind of let yourself go from those chains in terms of scaling right away. And another thing I really do want to highlight, though, whether you are selling really expensive products to large enterprise, I still want you to really focus on this part. Automations in terms of N8N, Make.com, Zapier, whatever, with just a little bit of AI or even a lot of AI, that will bring a huge amount of results right away. You don't always have to get too like pigeonholed in terms of using AI or custom AI, because I know it's fancy sounding, and it's kind of, you're pushing the edge of innovation, whatever. But if you don't need it and it doesn't get all of the results, don't use it for no reason, right? Focus on results. Focus on two things. How much money am I going to save my client? And number two, how much time am I going to save my client? Nowhere there does it matter how much AI they're using. It's about how are they benefiting. And if you have to use AI, like custom AI, go for it. But if you don't have to, don't do it, right? You can just use simpler automations, and that's fine. So yeah, again, I would just really recommend making sure you keep all of these things in mind when you're scoping out a client in terms of a project or just seeing if they even need AI in their business. It'll save you a ton of time, ton of headaches, and you'll be able to scale way quicker. If you enjoyed the video, please like it, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time.